last I talked to you, you were in the process of acquiring and purchasing a couple of the mummies from the supposed same mummies, ancient alien mummies that were in the Mexican Senate or Congress or Capitol hearing, whatever it was. And do you want to tell us about the latest updates and what you got going on, my friend?
Yeah, we purchased a couple of them, and the seller down there, he dressed them up and like little dolls, I guess you could call them, or something of that nature. He put clothes on them and sent them through DHL, and the DHL contacted the seller, and they said that they had confiscated the mummies, and the next day on their like Good Morning America. I think you have a video actually that you can show, but they confiscated them and X-rayed them right there on national TV. So and you can show that. It's in Spanish, but you'll get the idea. Maybe. I can't hear you.
En Nazca, en Perú, que iban a ser enviadas a México. Las piezas, muy similares a las mostradas por Jaime Maussan, estaban camuflajeadas con vestidos de colores, como si se trataran de muñecas compradas en un mercado como souvenir, ¿no? Los funcionarios del aeropuerto notaron algo muy extraño en las imágenes de los rayos X. Se las incautaron a quienes las estaban portando, ya que incluso podrían tratarse de piezas prehispánicas, patrimonio precisamente de ese país.
Sí, estaban cubiertas con una ropa de plástico y también con algunos encajes. Se visualizaba restos presuntamente arqueológicos, restos humanos, que habrían estado alterados con algunos metales al interior. El delito sería la extracción de bienes culturales. La sanción puede ser entre 6 a 8 años de pena privativa.
Las autoridades también informaron que iniciaron ya una investigación para determinar si las figuras realmente son patrimonio cultural del Perú y dónde fue que las encontraron.
Can't hear you, Bernie. I think you might be muted, buddy.
Sorry.
There we go.
Sorry, I didn't realize I was muted there. Okay. But yeah, so this is amazing because this is a first mover, precedent-setting case that now your investment is getting tested by the Peruvian government, and that they arrested the guy that sent this out, so that essentially means they're verifying that it is legitimate, that these things, they're treating them as archaeological or anthropological, biological entity, real, and no longer as frauds, fakes, and the
X-rays were pretty hard to argue that those were constructed out of human and animal bones. You know, there was many articulated bones and things put together that you would not be able to fake on an X-ray at that degree. And so it definitely correlates with Jaime Maussan's release in terms of what they X-rayed there for the Mexican government. And it's obviously they're the same type of looking being. So yeah, it should set a precedence for sure. This gentleman, he's being held. They're threatening him with 6 to 8 years, and they sent it off to the University of Lima to be tested for carbon dating and hopefully DNA testing. You know, I think that carbon dating is obviously going to come back old, but you know, what exactly is it would really have to determine the charge, because it's not a human or an animal.
Absolutely right. And it's like, oh man, if they don't muck around with it and give it an honest, real scientific scrutiny and publishing, and because it seems that they always, for some reason, the results are inconclusive, or the samples disappear. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
In this
Welcome,
case,
Julia.
it's going to be a lot harder to go missing as it's been on the news, and if they lie and say it's animal or something of that nature again, and then they prove that wrong later, these people's jobs and credibility and Peru as a country will be really on the line. So the credibility here is insane.
Absolutely. And so these ones were in Peru, and then what the original ones where the case was in Mexico. So it was like the
Mexico was
Mexican
the one
one.
who heard it. Peru refused it and said that they were false. And so Jaime Mausam is obviously in Mexico and has connects there. And so when he got these and did all the tests on them in Mexico, and they came back with conclusive, DNA and everything that was 30% unknown, and all these other tests came back positive from many, many good labs, they agreed to hear it in Mexico, because
Nice.
Mexico has these as well. Dr. Pablo Garcia Sanchez, he's come out with numerous bodies that look very similar, but much more. I've got some pictures on our feed, but nonetheless, it's dehydrated the exact same way, and so I think that's kind of what they're looking at, is that they're trying to open it up, to where they're not just the only ones coming out with it.
And that's the way it needs to be.
Yeah.
Julia, you're muted, dear. If you've been trying to say something, and welcome.
Good evening. Good evening. So these are from Peru?
No, the bodies that we.
Yeah, the bodies. Yes, absolutely. These ones. So these guys right here that. Let's see if I can replay it just even muted. So Mike had purchased these to ship them up to try to, get them for us to test and do some scrutiny of. And yeah, so these are the two that were those the Mexican ones they just showed, or yours after they had undressed them?
No, they were the Mexican ones there on the side by
Those,
side.
okay, yeah, those were the originally. Oh, that was that X-ray though, is what the box was of them.
That was of the box. Yeah, that's the DHL.
Those were of yours.
Correct. Yeah, I was definitely getting real
so
ones.
So this is the X-ray of what you had purchased.
Yeah, those are them. Yep, we have multiple pictures of them being dressed, movies of them, all kinds of stuff. The wire transfer. I'm going to be publishing all that in my book here coming out next year.
This is the big one right here, and that it's a precedent-setting case, because all the artifacts
also,
that you have.
You can see those two blue things. They had surgical implants on them of metal as well.
Yeah, I was just noticing that has to be metal within it, right?
Absolutely. Yep. So it's going to be really great. I mean, it's really sucks to lose out on something like that, but at the same point, this is why I bought them, was to research them, and so to have someone as if they do a good job, I'll be really, really thankful that I did this purchase. If they lie about it, it's going to be really unfortunate, but I don't think that they can after seeing this picture that you're showing right now. Like, this is really hard to fake that.
Yeah, right. And like that's the official of what just the shipping was, and
so they have implants inside of them.
Yeah, and they're so precisely laid that we don't have the surgical technology to lay an implant like that into a body today.
It's 1:11 a.m. where I am. And sorry, just to say also, though, the fact that another precedent-setting aspect of it is that, like, all the 600 artifacts you have, the epicness right here that you've got next to you, of all of that they claim that those are fakes, frauds, forgeries, and they're legal to sell because of that. And the fact that they actually arrested the man that was shipping you and got you this guy right here means that they're claiming that this is 100% authentic as far as they believe.
Well, no,
And
they haven't charged him yet. So they're holding
okay.
him without bail, but there hasn't been an official charge yet because they sent it to the University of Lima to be researched to make sure. Because if it's human remains, it's a different charge than if it's an alien, you know. And I don't think there really will be a charge if it's an alien. He'll probably be let go, and it'll set a precedence, like you said, and then future cases will obviously hold a penalty, I would imagine, but yeah, if it's human remains and they found that he made a forgery somehow, then he would be held liable for those ancient remains if they are indeed ancient.
And if it's a fake, then they just let him go, and you'd be like, all right, well, that whole thing was bunk, and that you would have paid $15,000 to essentially debunk the, if they're the same, from the same source as the Mexican hearing ones. But
Yeah.
are we for sure on that?
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah. In fact, I've got some stuff I'll be publishing as well in my book that we've taken. There's a hand and a head that made it successfully to my good friend in France, and he was kind enough to wash all of the white stuff off. And underneath, it is absolutely insane. Definitely not no paper mache. It looks alien. It's a crazy looking bone. I'm really excited. I haven't been. I really wanted to have some stuff in my book that's special, so that's going to be one of it.
I'd be interested in looking into the implants and
Yeah.
testing that.
The research, the 78 gigs that Mexico released there during that congressional hearing, they gave access to all that data. You can go download it, and it's all in Spanish, so be prepared to that. But regardless, all of the implants and how they're laid, and the zero point 0.01 micron that it's precisely put in there, all that stuff is really shown well there. So.
And sorry, just responding to the chat, prayers are with Dutch Sense. I do not know what's going on. I actually want a proof of life because last he did publish publicly, he was mentioned and cut off the video that he was and his family were being threatened. And then now coming out today, 2 weeks later, with one video that's not even his voice, just like some auto-tuned thing, and him saying it was his last video ever and that he was quitting. And I like, that's sketchy, and prayers are with him. And it's just crazy days, everything that is happening.
Yeah.
But just to go on and show, like, here we have modern humans, Neanderthal, and Denisovan. There we go. Denisovan. That's how you say it. And that looks pretty elongated, skulled, and giant compared to us, right? And do we have Anunnaki, Nephilim, elongated skulls than us? And what's going on? It seems to depict exactly what your Carving show.
Yeah, and what you see in Egypt too, in terms of like Akhenaten and Nefertiti, I mean, their heads are very oddly shaped, and their eyes are also very oddly shaped in terms of supporting, that sort of argument, I guess. I mean, to some extent, and what's interesting about these pieces that we're finding is, yeah, you see this typical, see the typical gray. In this case, it's like a duality depiction where it's a scaled and a non, what that, I don't know if it's reptilian. He's holding DNA, but then you also have other types as well, like these little guys here. And you can see every one of these is really different.
Right, and they truly do resemble from like different ones that I've seen, especially on this Vlad9 channel. Vlad9, I forget the exact name. Russian guy, been showing all sorts of parts and megalithic stuff from around the world forever. And it's like there's many figures like that from Africa, from Siberia, from like Easter Island to Hawaii to New Zealand. They're everywhere, right? And
absolutely. Yeah, so I think that some of the stuff that the maybe that in these ancient texts that we see are possibly true about this flood or an existence before us. And I think with the Neanderthals and what you just showed, there's obviously a sign of that happening in our past in the fossil record. So what does that mean? I mean, full way through, that's just what we know, right? So it means it's happened. There's been an extinction type event before that killed off the Neanderthals, because we have still remnants of them in our DNA, but there's no purebred Neanderthals or anything close to it at this point.
Or were they the Sasquatch, or were they the demigods, or were they the in-betweens? And do they still exist, like in another dimension, off-world, underground, in spaceships? Who, dark side of the moon? Who knows? Just throwing ideas out there.
Yeah, oh yeah. Inspiration comes from interesting places.
Yes, please do show more of this black, like, and the black light. It's like, just, it's fascinating how it's ingrained into the material.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really strange, and it's in the material in so many different ways too. Like here, I'll show some. I mean, those ones you can see just in this crystal here.
Right, like it's within the entire crystal.
Yeah, like the crystal itself, and then there's inlay too. You can see that, like, it chunks up and stuff. You can tell it's not perfect either. Like the way
Wait,
this
go
stuff
back
is
to the
inlaid.
crystal. I want to see the symbol. The symbol
Yeah,
from it.
please focus on each one a little longer, Mike,
Yeah,
if you
yeah,
don't
here.
mind, because
There you
key
go.
parts for people to be able to pause and go back to, and like for each one that you never know which dot's going to get connected by someone out there seeing a runic symbol or different pictographic symbol that they recognize a phrase or sentence, right? And all of a sudden you start decoding.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's a couple of alchemy symbols I just recognized on your crystal. So there we go. There's Saturn on there, and
Yeah, no, there's a lot of real. Saturn is depicted on everything, but a lot of things of. I'll show you here. Like this thing here with like the sun, I guess maybe, or with the rays coming down from the sphere itself.
It looks like, yeah.
This language right here is really interesting. It almost reminds me of Greek in some ways, but
right, there's lots I've noticed throughout these different artifact finds that often it's Proto-Greek, Proto-Sumerian, Proto-Egyptian,
yep.
and a couple others in there. It's crazy.
But it's what you'd want to see,
It's
if there was
exactly
some.
what you want to see. It just
Yeah.
blows the mind.
Yeah, and the way it's expressed and the way it's used is the very, very peculiar part to me, because um, it seems like it has a real purpose. You can see on this chessboard here, um, each square has a symbol. The entire board glows. It's really amazing. Here, I'll turn the light on so you can see what it looks like normally. But what's really interesting is, like, on this board, you can see here.
Just the detail is insane in every single one's originality, and
Yeah, each piece is just intricately carved. It's all done out of
It reminds me
calcite
of this
quartz.
realm, like if they're able to influence humans and interact and mess with their genetics, the way that the game of life is being played by different entities and different beings here. That just reminds me of that. Like chess, like a game of chess that we don't even know
Bingo.
the rules of.
Of angels and demons, right?
And what's interesting is you see the angels playing the game here.